Hi everyone, Sawadee-ka. I hope I said that right. My name is Eve and I am from California, USA. I am also part of the queer community. I consider myself to be demisexual. I will simply say bisexual for those of you who are still getting familiar with all the sexualities out there. I came out in 2012, and since then I have had the absolute pleasure of finding and immersing myself in queer film and cinema and TV. I came across a fair on YouTube. I want to say this was a few months ago, and I ended up really loving the series. I would love to do reactions to all the episodes from a fair, but obviously I'm a little late to the fandom, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with episode 2 of Harmony's Secret. And even though I have watched this before, it was just once, I haven't really taken it all in yet. I'm still looking at scenes, evaluating them, trying to read between the lines and saying what I think is going to happen next in episode 3. Okay, so we're first at the scene where they're at Lookmhee's underground women's bar. Okay, so I do love these little acts of chivalry by I. I think that it speaks to her feelings, and we obviously already know that she's had those feelings for a very long time. But two things I want to point out here. Number one, as a woman, I actually relate to this scene, not even in a romantic way. You know, it's just a woman thing, unfortunately, and I think maybe a lot of you feel the same, where we've been in a situation, we've had to offer someone help, they've had to offer us help, when we recognize that there was somebody being really creepy or they couldn't take no for an answer. So right off the bat, it's nice to see, well, I mean, obviously this situation is never nice, but it's nice to see something relatable on a woman level. You know, right away, we relate. We know. Girl, we know. He's creepy. You know, let's get rid of him. But number two, speaking to the romantic part here, I do want to say this scene in particular, I feel like it's a subtle progression of Meibika's feelings. So if you guys remember, if you've already watched previous episode or previous scenes, you remember that Meibika has already basically said she's capable of taking care of herself, right? And we saw flashbacks of when she basically told all these guys that, you know, wanted to be with her that she wasn't interested. And one guy that was just being too pushy, she gave him, you know, the middle finger and she said, F you. And I don't see that here with the dude or with I. So it just tells me that she's also I'm sorry. Let me just kind of cut in here real fast. So she has her bodyguard too, right? That obviously wants to protect her and help her. And you know that Meibika is appreciative of it, but consistently there's always this air of you know, I'm grateful for you, but you know, it's really not necessary. And that whole resistance just doesn't totally exist. Maybe a little bit, but not nearly as much here with I. So that being said, I think that this is a really great scene on the writer's part, because I think that we do tend to kind of step away from our general character when we really like somebody. We're willing to let them take the protective role for us instead of having to do everything ourselves. When it's somebody that we don't like, obviously we say, like, look, I'm perfectly capable. But when it's somebody that we want to be with, we're willing to kind of just let them take the reins, right? So I think this scene is a subtle hint at how Meibika is changing as a person, and she's actually realizing or figuring out who or what she likes. Okay, so this is the scene directly after when Aiwarin is walking with Meibika. Okay, I have a few thoughts here. So in the beginning, Iwadin says, you know, kind of just follow my lead. And Mavika is like, yeah, sure. She just lets herself. And honestly, I would too. I'm not even holding it against her. She just says, yep, do what you want to do. And I think that speaks to her feelings as well. Um, I don't know. She's finally figuring out what she likes. Obviously, she knows it. She knows it. She's just not saying it. So, the other thing here, I appreciate how bold Iwadin is. I think as women, we tend to get stuck in this box of femininity where we're just supposed to let the guy take the lead, right? We're not supposed to show our sexuality or our sensuality, and we're not supposed to do anything that makes us look too forward. But she does this very well. And I really like that about her character. She goes for what she wants. And that being said, I think in this scene, she was being a tease. I really do believe that. I've never read the book. I heard there was a book, but I'm not sure. So I can't really speak to exactly what the intentions were here, but I feel like she saw an opportunity and she took it. And I don't want to make her sound too opportunistic, right? Like, we obviously know how she feels about May, but I do think that she's a mastermind in seduction. That's just my opinion. She's a mastermind in seduction. It's a perfect way to describe her, to describe this scene. Honestly, anything else could have taken place. We know that, right? She could have taken her into the bathroom and hid. She could have, I don't know, run out to the parking lot and hid in the car. You know, like, obviously we see there is a car scene. But this was very, very intentional. And I don't believe it was just for the sake of scaring off some weird dude. I definitely think that this was planned. I don't know. I just kind of, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just wishful thinking. All right, now we have this scene where Mabika is in her room and she's thinking back on this interaction with Iwadin. All right, point blank. I really did think that we were gonna watch her touch herself. I thought that that's the direction that we were going in here. And I myself started getting a bit shy. My hands were moving around like hers. And I think that was for two reasons. The actress, hats off to her, because I don't think I could ever lay there and pretend to enjoy myself in front of a crew of people. Number two, you know, the character, we know deep down she understands that she likes women. At least she likes Iwadin, right? But she is in such denial. And I don't know if that discomfort with these feelings, these sexual feelings, translates over to the viewer, because I think, I don't know, I'm a bit perplexed myself. Maybe I'm just a little bit more prudish. But also, I do remember a point in time in my life when these particular feelings, even if they weren't exactly sexual, but just the idea of having to come to terms with liking the same sex, that was hard. It was very uncomfortable at some point, and the character is obviously in a state of denial. On one hand, she's very turned on. On the other, she is angry, and we see that when she when she gets up from the bed, and she's upset and she's resentful and she's questioning Iwadin, right? And she's looking for any excuse to remove herself from these feelings. And I think that is very, very relatable. I think that is very on point with how some of us in the queer community, excuse me, how some of us in the queer community end up reacting to these thoughts, right? And these feelings. It's a very intimate and complex feeling to have. And so I think this is a really great progression of her character, and Sonya does very, very well in playing it. All right, you guys, unfortunately, I think that's all I have time for today. I severely underestimated the amount of time that this would take. I'm very new to this, to reaction videos, so I'm still learning the ropes. I will do my best to post consistently. I've never been a YouTuber, so this is going to take a little bit of work, although I have done social media throughout my life, so that is not a problem at all. I would really appreciate if you guys would follow me on YouTube and Instagram. I think that would be a great incentive for me to post regularly. I don't know how consistent I can be on Instagram. It's just because even though I love social media, it is a lot of work. And I am probably older than most of you. I'm going to be 35, so I am part of the millennial age group. And if you are as well, then you understand that there's a huge fight within us where it's like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to do things that I love. And another part of us that absolutely obsesses over things and wants to feed that inner child because, as you know, the abundance of queer content that we see today is not something that we had when we were younger. And so now we get to watch these shows where these characters are, they're people that we can relate to. Now we have films that we can connect to. I feel like this is where I'm coming from in my ambition here. I know I'm it might seem a little bit silly to some people, but again, if you're a millennial or even somebody that feels the same way, a lot of this, what we do and what we talk about in this discussion that has anything to do with queer content, a lot of it does come from a place of sincere love and that desire, that nostalgia for something that we never got. I hope you guys will find my content engaging. I do try to keep my content as, the theme more mature, but I am trying to relate to, Gen Z as well. So, I'll find my niche. But for now, if you don't mind supporting, I would really, really love that. And if you have a channel yourself, let me know. I am happy to follow your YouTube, your Instagram. Those are like the only two that I have. But I'm happy to return the favor. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and for giving me the views. And I can't wait to meet you guys. So have a good one.